First of all, a couple of comments after reviewing the tape and going through everything with UC Davis. We're really pleased with the fast start. We had talked about rushing the ball better, and we certainly think we accomplished that. I thought we did a nice job defending the traditional runs established in line of scrimmage. Really pleased that we created 2 takeaways on defense. Thought Josh threw the ball well. He was 11 for 15, had 0 interceptions, and threw a couple of those away. So we scored in a 2-minute right before the second half, so that certainly was good. There are some things to improve on. We've got to work on Josh's ball security. You know, that strip is something that can be prevented. And we probably need to do a little bit better job at times getting off the field on 3rd down. And so it was a good performance, though. You know, I thought Cal Davis is a good football team, and we needed to come in and play well. And it was going to be interesting to see how our football team responded after the previous game, and thought they responded very well. And so, you know, we made it through the game. The only thing we're maybe a little bit concerned about is Robert Priester right now with some concussion protocol, but we'll see how he goes through the week. Eastern Michigan is 2-1. They had a convincing win last week against a Conference USA team, Charlotte, and you know, they pretty much had their way with us last year. We were not competitive in the ball game, and so playing up there on a Friday night be a real challenge. Quarterback Porter is new. He's completing 63% of his passes. He is mobile. I think they've got a complex rushing attack. Erickson and another young man, Banham, is a guy out of the Twin Cities that we know quite a bit about. Defensively, they've got some really experienced defensive coaches who come from great backgrounds, and they've got a really solid front 4, big, strong, physical guys. We think they've got some good coverage corners as well, so that's going to pose a challenge for us. They got an excellent punter. He's averaging 47 yards. Barnes is his name. He got 5 punts over 50 yards, so he can boom, and he's got 6 inside the 20, so they utilize their kicking game well. So big challenge for us, a great opportunity. I know both teams are hungry. So at this time, I'll open up any questions anybody has out there.
Greg, it sounds like you mentioned their quarterback, and you know, but the starter, when you saw last year, is suspended, but they said he's back. So
he is back.
Do you prepare for both, or are they similar? How do you kind of approach that?
Well, you know, there are a lot of similarities. Obviously, they have some strengths. You know, we're going to prepare who they start, but you know, the backup was cleared last week and did not play, and he was the guy that played. So we're going to assume we're going to have Porter, but we'll plan for the same game plan on defense.
Coach, how much do you use the tape from last year's game in preparing for this year's game?
Well, really use it extensively offensively. Defensively, there's new coordinators, new people, so the scheme's different. But their offense, we've looked at that tape extensively.
What is their schemes like now? What are they doing now defensively, and what did they do last year?
Well, they were more of a 3-down front, and this year they're more 4-down, so it's a little bit different there.
Greg, I would imagine you don't have to really talk this opponent up very much after what happened last year.
Yeah, no, I think we're all scarred. You know, we came in and you know, it was Josh's first start. We played 13 plays, and he got hurt. Then Nick played, and we had a couple players suspended, and then we got guys hurt, and you know, we got scarred. It was a tough start last year, and so this is going to be a great opportunity for us. One thing we've tried to do, though, is not look a lot in the rearview mirror. Try to look forward and look at our football team and make sure we're making progress. And you know, it's not a fluke that they're 2-1. They're a good football team.
Coach, how much of a challenge is sort of the mixture of having a short week and having to go on the road for the?
That's a complex issue, because you take basically one whole day, and to travel to Detroit is not like it's right next door, and then also having a short week. And you know, it's kind of reversed. We had a home game, and we're going on the road. They had a road game, but they're playing at home. Both teams are probably dealt with a kind of the same deck of cards, and how each team prepares is going to have a big impact in the ball game.
You mentioned the stopping the run a little bit after the game. You know, and I know it takes all 11 guys, but what have you seen from your front guys? You know, I know they maybe don't get a lot of attention, and you look at the stats, and maybe they're not a ton of tackles, but something has to be going well up there. What have you seen so far, especially in the interior run defense?
I appreciate you bringing that up, because a lot of times those guys aren't making the tackles, but we've done a good job thus far establishing the line of scrimmage, and that was true really against Nebraska until late in the game. And so I think you need to attribute that to the front four guys. Certainly Connor Kane, his added strength. Johanna has played well. Chase Appleby has played well. Carl Granderson. Josiah Hall is a big, strong, sturdy guy. Kevin Prosser. Those guys have really done it. We're not getting knocked off the football, and that's allowed our linebackers to really come in and be able to move and make some tackles. And I think we've had some good tackling from our secondary as well.
How big can that be? You mentioned they have kind of a complex running scheme. How important could that be Friday night to continue to see that?
Well, it's going to be critical. For us to be successful, our chances of winning go way up when we can make a team one-dimensional, and that's what happened with Cal Davis. Their traditional runs we were able to take away, the screen game we were able to take away, and then it came down to them throwing the ball, and they did move the ball some, but typically that's not going to beat you. And so against Eastern Michigan, we've really got to be solid against a run.
Greg, in relation to the pass plays, Nebraska versus the UC Davis game, the defense didn't allow as many big pass plays in the UC Davis game. Was that attributable more to scheme, adjustments, or better execution?
I think, first of all, the group of receivers at the University of Nebraska are big time. I mean, that showed when they beat Oregon. Those guys are really good, and I thought Nebraska's quarterback had the ability to throw the ball really well deep. We matched up better against Davis. We certainly got better pressure on the quarterback. Picking him off early had an impact, and getting some sacks had an impact. So we made progress. We've got a ways to go, but we're getting better, Robert. I'm sorry. I was thinking about Robert over here. But we're getting better, and so we're going to keep on working on that.
Okay, DJ's back. I see him on the depth chart,
Yep.
ready to go, back in the lineup. Everything's good to go for him this week.
Yeah, you know what? He served his deal, and he's all back, and he's ready to go. He should be fresh.
You mentioned Robert with some concussion issues. If he can't go, I know Davion's been in there a little bit. He's really been playing three corners. Who else maybe you look at a little bit more in practice as you monitor Robert?
Davion right now would be, if we went out today, would be our third, but we'll see how Robert goes. We've been able to play with Antonio Hall and Rico on the other side, and so we're not real deep at that spot. When we look at our secondary, we're thin, and those guys that are there, we got to coach them up.
Coach, on the offensive line, I know the pass protection's been there pretty much all year, but in the run game, what did they do differently against Cal Davis compared to Nebraska?
Well, we got body on body a lot, and then we got movement. Against Nebraska, we had a hard time. We tried to establish some inside running game, and we couldn't get any movement. Typically, I mean, it looks like, okay, they're just running up the middle, but that's A-gap power is technical stuff. And a lot of it gets contingent on whether you're moving the three technique and getting some displacement. And that opens up all kinds of different cuts. We were able to do that against Cal Davis a couple times. Brian hit the backside A and opened up some big runs. And that always comes in when you can not only get some movement this way, but you can get movement that way.
Greg, so the offensive line, is it fair to say it's exceeded your expectations a little bit, considering the late fall camp, Chase the center, Gavin the true freshman at the guard position?
Yeah, we're thin, but we've had one sack. We were disappointed we weren't able to run the ball better against Nebraska, but last week we responded well. Some of the sacks, we've had better protection. We've picked up some pressures better, but I think Josh has added an element that we haven't had that since I've been our head coach. And I don't know when the last time Wyoming's had somebody be able to do some of the things he can do. And I think the future really looks bright in a great quarterback. And I'm not saying he's great, but he's got some exceptional skills. That can make an offensive line look a lot better. And then you got a good running attack with Brian. And so we're pleased with that.
And one of the better things I think your defense has going for it is if you look at the 3 games you've played, the 3 most high-profile backs that each team has presented you guys with, you've pretty much shut each one of them down.
And That wasn't the case last year. Now, we've got the lion's share of the season to come, and we'll get challenged right now. Last year, we had a hard time stopping the run against these guys, but that's been a big difference, and, I noted that with our front four. Those guys they've all put on 20 pounds, and they've worked hard during the offseason, and that's starting to show up for us. And I think we're better tacklers than linebackers.
With DJ out last week, were you happy with what you saw from Tim stepping in?
Yeah, we appreciated what Tim did. He came in and he did a yeoman job. He made a couple tackles. He was in the right spot, and so he did a good job.
You've done these Friday night games before, whether you've been at home or on the road. I know it's kind of a logistical nightmare, but does it help that you've had to do this before, and how's it gone so far? Doing everything on a short week?
Well, our players responded. We practiced yesterday, and typically we give them Sunday off, and I really believe that that's important to do, but we just weren't in that position to do that. And our coaches were up bright and early, and so we've been game planning hard. I'm sure Eastern's doing the same. As coaches, you just adjust your clock, and we'll kind of alter some of how we structure our periods and some of the things we do, but try to get our work in before we hop on that plane. But that's a challenge, and that's just one thing I'm finding is when you're in the Mountain West, you're going to go, and TV's going to have a big impact when you play, and there's not a lot to say about that, so we play when they tell us to play.
Greg, is it fair to say that starting with yesterday, you only have these 4 days period? Is Thursday a day you can really do anything with the traffic?
We can do a little bit, but by that time, with the extensive amount of travel, and then you're getting close to the game, it's not like the old days a long time ago where they used to go out and scrimmage on Friday night before you played on Saturday. That's not a real smart thing to do. But we're going to utilize all our time that we have. And, it helps the fact that we've got a coaching staff. There's a lot of continuity on our coaching staff, and we have gone through these Friday games before.
Did it matter to you, Coach? You mentioned you open a season at night, you play a night game. You got 8:15 CSU was announced today. You're going to play Friday at night. Is it one way or another? Does it matter to you, day, night? Do you prefer one versus the other?
I like 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And I would venture if you took a poll of all the coaches out there, they said that. When I was a young coach, I coached at Wisconsin, and Bo Schembecker was at Michigan, and he threw down the gauntlet, and Michigan played at 1 o'clock, and he didn't care about TV. And those are the old days. I learned a while ago you better just get adjusted to TV and not complain about it. We're soldiers. We just get ourselves ready to go play. But I prefer 1. What is always the case is as soon as you go to bed on whether it's Friday or Saturday night, as soon as your head hits the pillow, you're working on the next week. And so if you can play at 1, you got a little time on Saturday night to at least go for a walk with your wife or ride a horse or something.
Coach, because of the short week, you said you're trying to cover all your bases, but is there an element of your game that you're really trying to focus on more so than the other?
You always look at yourself in the mirror. We looked at ourselves extensively at how we played last year and what kind of things we can do to improve so those, plays don't pop again. We also look at making sure that our timing is correct, even though you play a game. There's certain things with your inside running game or your passing game you got to work on, and so you have different elements of a game plan every week, but in a short week you just can't do everything you normally can.